I am so happy to be here with you. Just giving you a little bit of background, this is Disruptive Conversations. I had a really disruptive time in that I woke up this morning. There was a huge storm, chairs thrown around by the wind. And starting yesterday, wind problems with cable and internet. And and a huge wire going across my driveway into the neighbor's next driveway onto the street. And so from this moment of evening disruption with the storm until now, with no disruption whatsoever and with tremendous ease, Bethany has come on. And I'm just so happy to see you here and to have had this journey to make sure that we can do this, because I've been so looking forward to seeing you and just having this time of connecting, because there's so much overlap in our lives and in our journey. So here's Bethany, and so I'm going to take a moment and introduce the show, myself, Bethany, and we've got a whole bunch to talk about today. So welcome everyone to Disruptive Conversations with thought leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, self-reflective moms, uh, educators, attorneys, as many spaces for life and work as there are the many categories that are here on Disruptive Conversations, in which we deep dive into the experiences these women have needed to navigate and conquer in order to have achieved their personal and professional success up to this point in time. I'm Dr. Risa Reiger, clinical psychologist, and I'm an expert in change. I help people make positive change, people, companies, teams, at any point in time. The good news is that change can happen, positive change can happen at any point. You're never too late. But in order to have positive change, you need to disrupt. You need to disrupt a thought, a feeling, a belief, a habit, a behavior in order to live and create your 10.0 life. And that's what this series of conversations is all about. And today, through a host of strange and wonderful and beautiful circumstances, uh, I'm here and we're here together with Bethany Saltman. I'm going to read a bit from her bio. Bethany, and I love this, still can't believe she gets to write and work with books for a living. That really lets you know you've landed in the right spot. And her critically acclaimed first book, Strange Situation, was named A Mother's Journey into the Science of Attachment, was named one of the top science books of 2020. So Bethany is a best-selling book coach and co-host of the Bookbound podcast, in which we also overlap in our journeys. And Bethany uh, works very hard in the area of nonfiction to bring these very important books into life, into she's birthing books into the lives of people through being published. And she lives in the Catskills of New York with her husband, teenage daughter, and their two standard poodles. Bethany, I am just so happy and excited to have you here today. So welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And you have been on quite a journey to get here. Well, I'm grateful. We have a winter wonderland up here in Phoenicia, which is ridiculous. But it's wonderful to be here, and I'm excited to have a chat.
Yes, well, Bethany's with her two dogs. I have my two dogs. You've got two poodles. I have two not poodles, two Bichons. I've had my own time with the 14-year-old who has a ruptured disc. So it's been that and the storm, which didn't bode well for her because she likes to be very on it and be the guard dog, and she couldn't do that. And so we're not always at our most best, so to speak. So first off, is there something that I didn't say in your bio that you'd like to let us know about you?
Oh gosh. I don't think so. That pretty much covers it.
Okay. And we talk about disruption, and when you and I had a chance to talk about disruption, we had a lot of head nodding together, which is wonderful. And so, Bethany, what is it that you needed to disrupt in yourself in order to have achieved your personal and professional success up to this point in time?
Gosh. What have I had to disrupt? Well, I think I'm still in the process of disrupting it. And what is it in a nutshell? I would say oh my gosh, I feel like I've had to really disrupt expectations, and expectations that come from a lot of you know old stuff, expectations that are really me trying to get something, the expectation to receive, to get like with the book, like, I worked on the book for 10 years and then it came out during COVID. So that was like an insane disappointment. But so that was a major disruption of my expectation. But then it led to this whole world of book coaching, and it led me, and this is going to sound strange, to Instagram. I was not on any social media before COVID. I'm one of the rare people who got a book deal without social media, so I'm here to say it's possible. So that was a major disruption, and I feel like every day I'm having to disrupt an expectation, whether positive or negative. It's just about being in the moment. If there's one thing that wasn't in my bio, it's that I've been a practicing Buddhist since, I don't know, 1998. So that's, a very big part of my life, a daily meditation practice. I've studied with a Zen teacher for decades. So that's a big part of my world. So disrupting expectations, I think is a good answer.
I think that disrupting expectations is a great answer. And life is just absolutely full of disruptions. And on a minuscule part, just last night, and that I'm not in my home. I'm like calling people up in the area. Do you have electricity? Do you have internet? And, literally taking my show on the road um, in order for that to happen. So what do you in the book and in your work, you talk about being present, and being present doesn't mean just being present for joy, and being present for joy is very important, but being present is an openness to whatever it is
Absolutely.
that's coming up, showing up, and happening. So could you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Sure, sure. So yeah, I mean, disrupting expectations means that we are open to whatever happens in the moment, right? So, I might expect that this conversation is going to go a certain way. And let's say, something else happened. I need to be able to deal with that in the moment of whatever is happening, instead of saying, Risa, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it the way I expected you to do? So, and we do this all the time in our relationships. Someone is not meeting our projections, our expectations, our hopes, our desires, our fantasies. And instead of meeting who they are, we fight with the idea of who we thought they were going to be. So basically, we're having relationships with ourselves 24/7 instead of the person who is in front of us, because we're just, projecting all over the place because we're insecure and we're afraid and we're trying to find our way. But it doesn't work. So to be present absolutely means being present to our own bodies. I talk about our bodies as our instrument. I talk about our bodies as an instrument when I work with writers. Like, you have to be able to sense what's working on the page with your body. You have to be able to feel like that word is really clunky. That word makes my heart sing. This one feels, like it's moving somewhere. This one feels stuck. Those feelings are all in the body. We are so used to thinking that all of our sensing happens in our minds with thoughts and words that cross our mind's eye. And that's not the way the body works. The body works with perception first, and then we start thinking. So the perception happens through the senses. So when we say come to your senses, we mean that literally coming to our senses. And that is how we are present. Now, that means we have to be present for a lot of things that we don't want. And that's called being a grown up. So, here we are.
Being present, as we're talking about it, and one of the things I happen to love about these conversations is that it is present in the
Yeah.
moment. And so we don't have a script. And so there may be times that I'm going exactly where you want to go and maybe not. But being present in the moment requires so much courage.
Yes, but I would also say we have no choice but to be present in the moment. Even if we had a script, we'd still be present. We just may be fighting it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
learn how to know when we're veering off and when we're filled with expectation and projection rather than sensing into the moment. So the courage is to start noticing
Yes.
all the ways that I am rejecting what is true. As my analyst says, hammering reality. Be this way, be this way, be this way, be this way, instead of just saying, okay, child, husband, partner, friend, dog, Instagram live partner, you are not who I want you to be. And here I am in this moment dealing with it, as opposed to just like hammering away and trying to make it different. And when we're doing that, we're not really engaged in a creative process, which is my, life's work, nor are we engaged in relationships. We are engaged in fantasy material in our own head.
It's interesting that as a writer, you go into words, and we're also talking about where life happens in not words. One of the things that I've written about is that we're all bilingual.
Mm,
Each and every one of us is bilingual. And what I mean by that is that our first language is the language of the body.
yes, absolutely.
And so as a writer, and also, you've been through I know that you've had contact with John Kabat-Zinn, who trained me in mindfulness-based stress
Yeah.
reduction. Hauser, who we know through, who's your partner and has been a wonderful friend and my very, very long time friend, colleague, and person to share ideas with, Dan Siegel. So we're coming from many different perspectives into this one moment together, and going from this, you're in a moment of choreography of internal nonverbal, pulling that up, and then also going into the world of language
Yeah,
and how where that intersection is and how to pull and find what communicates this.
absolutely, absolutely. John Kabat-Zinn saved my life.
Oh,
Or, I should say, I can't believe I just said that. What I meant was changed my life. But it's interesting that I said he saved my life. I write about him in my book when I was so caught in projections and fantasies that I was talking to him about my relationship with my daughter, and I was just doing this sort of complaining thing. And he said, she didn't ask to be born. And that changed everything for me. And it set me on this journey to write the book that I wrote. And it changed my relationship with my daughter, and it changed my relationship with myself. It turned me into a grown-up who was willing to take responsibility for the choices that I had made. So with that said, that was an experience of bringing awareness to so much of my expectations and these fantasies that I was living in. And then I spent the next many, many years putting words to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, I'm not an expert in this. There are people who really study this, but from just kind of an anecdotal, everyday perspective, you know, for me, it's about connecting with the sensations and then being brave to use your word to try to begin to find the words, you know, and that's what good writing is. It's language that comes from an actual experience. And so when we are not able as writers or artists or anybody really to have a you know, and it's growing all the time. Of course, our capacity is endless, but when we aren't able to touch into what is arising for us on the sensory level, our expression is going to be so, you know, flat. And so good writers are people who are big feelers. Not because, and you know, we get confused about this. We think it's because of the drama, and it's not that at all. It's about access, and it's about with access comes understanding.
Mm. So as a coach, when you're working with someone and you have a perspective and, you know, a whole life of experience, and you're with someone who is not
Yeah.
connecting, and how is it that you approach this?
Yeah. I have people read their own work aloud. That is that's my favorite tool. That's what I do in my coaching sessions with people. They put material that they're working on into a shared Google Doc, and I ask them to read it to me. And then when they're done, I ask them, what did you notice in your body as you were reading? And it takes a little while sometimes. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, everybody wants to talk about what they like and what they don't like and what feels good and what doesn't. Well, they don't mean feel, but what they kind of, you know, what they think is the right answer, and what they think is good writing. They don't understand that good writing comes from the body, and that as a writer, you need to learn to develop your editorial expertise on that level. And so we just read aloud. We do a ton of reading aloud, and then they start to see like, oh, that sentence was flat because it's not concrete. It's general. I'm telling instead of showing. I'm trying to convince somebody of something instead of sharing a scene. You know, we just start to see, and I have people watch movies. I have people read novels. I have people do all kinds of things to just see, you know, how does something appear as a scene and how does it make you feel? And then you can learn how to do that on paper.
When you think back on Strange Situation, which is an incredible book, you know, from talking about attachment and really stemming from your curiosity and your interest and your, I would say, courage. And there are so many examples in the book. When you think about this book, is there one particular example or part of it that's where your head goes to about this book that you would like to share with us?
Gosh, well, I mean, one of my favorite parts of the book is my relationship to Mary Ainsworth,
Ah,
who was the woman who first did an empirical study of attachment in Uganda.
mhm.
And the way that she taught me vis-a-vis her own body, her own sensory experience of being with these mothers, first in Uganda, then in Baltimore, and the way she was able to study her reactions, create hypotheses, test them, you know, be super quantitative and qualitative. She was such a genius, and I learned so much about being a writer by watching her, by studying her be a scientist. And so that to me, that's my favorite part. I really wanted to write a biography of Mary Ainsworth. I really wanted to write about attachment, not myself. I was kind of pressed into writing the memoir piece, which I'm happy I did. But the book started with a conversation or with questions about my relationship to my daughter, but it soon became much bigger than that.
And digging in, and there's so much around motherhood, of that you should, that it's natural, that one should just know. And it's such a place of tremendous
Yeah.
shaming, because there's so much. I mean, you have one daughter, I have two daughters, and from my first daughter, right, I'm like, okay, I've got this. And second daughter, I'm starting from the beginning again.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
I may know how to, get a kid into a car seat better, but
Yeah.
but beyond that, it's starting from the beginning again.
Wow. That must be why I never did it. One, good.
uh, and so how did that, and this notion of we should just know. I mean, there's so much shoulds, we should just
Yeah.
know. And I know that John says, we should all over ourselves, and
Yeah.
that, and to liberate ourselves, and to your liberation of yourself from, so many shoulds.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the point of the book is really that to have a secure attachment doesn't mean that you don't suffer. It means that you are able to value attachment. That is the definition of a securely attached adult. The hallmark of a securely attached adult is that they value attachment. So it really helped me see all of my yearning and my longing and all of the places where I was searching as evidence of being healthy rather than being messed up. So that was a huge kind of should flip. And then it helped me feel like I had what it takes to be Azalea's mother, which was the most important thing in the world to me and continues to be to this day.
In the book also, and because I'm leaning on that for the moment, but we talk about, and you talk about, felt security, that security isn't just a thing, like you have to feel it. And could you share, because I'm thinking about, the times when you feel felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you feel felt, you can't really put words on it.
Right.
It's so profoundly deep, and it's like this deep exhale that comes from somewhere in your soul,
Yeah.
where you just go,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about attachment is that, it really requires back to the senses. This is not something, that's why all the Dr. Sears attachment parenting stuff is so ridiculous, because you could be doing all the things on the list, co-sleeping, nursing, baby wearing, responding 24/7, all the things. And you can be so pissed off and so full of resentment that is actually what's being conveyed to your child. And I promise you that child is not going to be shaped in the way that you're hoping by following this rigid list, because what gets transmitted from generation to generation is feelings. And so, there's just no way around it. If you want your child to feel delighted in, you yourself have to be able to feel delight. You cannot give your child what you do not have.
That's so funny. That's so funny that you're using that word, because I was just talking to people a couple of days ago, and the importance of delight,
Yes.
the importance of, and delight is different than a
Yeah.
surprise, and and delight is, how would I'm just on my first book, so in that
Yeah.
process. And so how would you tell us more about how you would describe or define delight?
Well, Delight is actually what Mary Ainsworth said is the marker of a securely attached parent and child duo. So what she saw was that mutual delight was present in securely attached pairs. And what that means is that there's just pleasure. It's just, it doesn't have a purpose. It's not transactional. It's just pleasurable. And I often use the example of Azalea and I watching Real Housewives of New York together because we love it. It's not that wholesome, but it is because it's just sharing in delight. It doesn't have to be some, people get so caught up in these ideas of how parenting is supposed to look and feel, and it has to be, very organic and very pure, very wholesome, etc. What matters more than anything when we're talking about secure attachment is delight, and is transmitting delight from generation to generation. And if you want to give your child a gift, delight in them when they walk in the room.
And they know. That doesn't mean that you're feeling delight every moment.
Of course not.
You're feeling, as a parent, you're feeling everything.
That's the idea.
Right. The whole spectrum, of emotions.
Exactly.
And that we're not like all the time, because what is that communicating, and what happens when we're not? And to your point, we also can feel that difference.
Absolutely.
When we may not know, and we may not be able to really point it out and say exactly why, but that difference of when we can have that exhale and when we can't.
Absolutely. And that's just the nature of being human.
Yeah. So for people who need an exhale, what are your thoughts about that? How would you kind of share some wisdom on that?
For people who are looking to feel felt?
Yeah.
Well, as adults, looking to feel felt from other adults is tough, because we're probably really trying to fill an old need. We're trying to feel felt by someone who is not our partner, and we're trying to feel felt by a parent when we were babies. If this is something that we're perseverating on and we're really looking for a lot. Now, if we're just like needing a little settling, then yes, of course, we want relationships, we want healthy, contact with other people, but learning how to settle in ourselves is incredibly important and impactful. We can do this in any number of ways, through art, through meditation, through yoga, different body practices, but as like I said, as adults, to begin to learn how to settle oneself is incredibly important, and will help us be more available to other people in our relationships.
So moving to just a little bit of a different space, which is also in your wheelhouse. Here I am, I'm a first-time author, writing and doing the offloading, which is just such a great process from the inside, and what keeps rolling around onto the screen. What would be any thoughts, anything that you'd like to share for new authors? Because we never know who in the audience may be the next budding author. Even me, we didn't know that, I'd be writing a book.
Yeah. Well, to me, what I always say is pay attention to the story you can't stop telling. Speaking of shaming and shoulding, like we are always told, like the obsessive mind. My tagline for my business used to be obsession for the greater good.
Oh.
So, like I'm totally obsessive. I'm owning it. And I'm interested in the stories I can't stop telling. And I would encourage other people to become very interested in the stories they can't stop telling. There's something being, churning in there that needs attention. and that wants to be understood.
Yes. And also, nothing is a straight line, certainly
Oh,
from your, you know, and what I like in it too is, you remember those puzzles where you have a start point and then you have an end point, and it's like a maze and you have to find your way out. Uh, when we make that left turn or the right turn or go straight or whatever it is, and we wind up in that, like, I've hit the wall, I've hit the line.
yeah.
Any advice
Mm,
and wisdom also about, and then
right,
what?
right. Take a walk. Um, don't push. And something that's so important is to connect with the person you're writing the book for, because I call this your muse, and to connect with your muse, because the writing process, the publishing process, it will destroy your ego, and that's okay. That's part of what happens in the world when we want something, when we're ambitious. But that's why it's so important that you connect with your muse, the one person whose life will change after they read the book that you are writing. And then it doesn't, you can take all your beatings and you can get stuck and all that. Take a walk, take some time, connect with your muse, and just get back to it.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And last question, uh, Bethany, what is your next disruption?
Oh gosh. My next disruption,
Yes.
like I said, I think of, every day is a disruption. That's a good thing because my expectations are getting thrown. I'm feeling very disrupted right now because I'm in the process of creating another project, a book, a series of essays. I'm not sure yet. And I'm feeling disrupted every single day. I get up mad early, I do my thing, I show up, but it's not coming together. And so my next disruption is my next book, and it's disrupting the hell out of me every day.
Well, if we use that as a marker or as a benchmark, congratulations. It sounds like you're exactly on track.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you.
Yes, with all the disruptions. And also, I wanted,
Yeah.
if I had a highlighter just for our communities who are listening in, and for those who can't make it live, that we're both going to have this time available to you. And for those who need to hear this, that I, that the importance of your micro disruptors
Mm,
every single day, that you can have your micro delights, right? And also have your micro disruptors. And every time that we, we think, because it's our nature to anticipate, it's the nature of the brain to anticipate, right? And so you say da da, you start off and you say da da da, the other person says da da da, and then you say da da da, and then you're anticipating hearing
yeah. Yeah.
and it didn't.
Yeah. So how do you define disruption?
How do I define disruption? I think that disruption is, there are the times that we're on the slip and slide, you know? And when we pause, and we don't have to pause for every single thing. Oh my gosh, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
But when we pause and say, oh, wait a second,
I see.
just for that nanosecond,
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
is part of the micro, this is part of the micro disruptions.
Mm.
So, conversation to be continued. I want to thank you so very, very much for coming, sharing your wisdom, your heart, your thoughtfulness, this extraordinary journey you've been on, both bringing the academics, the science, the heartfulness, and your own personal heart and the depths of your heart into being here today. You take all of you wherever you go, right? And I know this is time, so I want to just first Thank you so very much, Bethany. I know Carly must have told you it's time for us to take our cover
Oh, yeah.
shop. Okay, I will not forget that because I will have hell to pay if I do, and why not? So your hair is all up. I'm shifting. Okay, so let's do a 1 and 1 more, please. Thank you so much for being here, and for everyone else, know that positive change can happen at any point. You're never too late. I'll be back here next week, and I've saved a seat for you. See you
Thank
then.
you. Bye.